Hey everybody, welcome to a holiday pre-taped episode of SJU, which means it'll be weird, because that is the tradition for holiday pre-tapes around these parts. I'm Joe, I'm joined by Kim, Spencer, Eric. Hey everybody, you ready for this to go off the rails immediately?
As is tradition.
Is tradition. So today we're talking about the top fandoms of 2020, and we've used science to determine them. This isn't opinions or movie fight shouting. This is fact based on analytics and data. So basically, we went to the people who actually do work at Fandom, and we made them stop doing their work and made them pull numbers for us instead of doing their work that makes the company go. And we had them help us put these lists together based on page traffic, based on interaction and engagement on different fandom communities, and using all that information, we have determined and gathered the top fandoms of 2020. Some of them, we know what they are. Some of them, we have no clue, but we're going to go through all of these lists, and we're going to puzzle through them together. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get started, y'all. Let's start with our top movie characters of 2020, because some of these are weird and I don't know, some of them make sense, but we're going to puzzle through all of them, figure out why they are so popular in 2020. And then if we don't know what they are, we're going to take a wild guess. Sound good? Okay, let's do this. The top movie characters of 2020, according to science. Darth Sidious, of course, from Star Wars. Voldemort from Harry Potter. Sauron from Lord of the Rings. Odd. Black Widow from the MCU, and President Snow from the Hunger Games. Some of these, I feel like it's like, okay, well, Rise of Skywalker, Sidious came back, and he was the big bad, and especially with Mandalorian sort of starting to hint at dark cloning and secrets that only the Sith knew. People are probably digging into the corners of Darth Sidious and trying to puzzle pieces together. And President Snow has a prequel coming out. Sauron's a weird one to me, y'all. Why is an evil, all-seeing eye so relatable in 2020?
That's a loaded question, sir. A couple of these are just kind of, I guess, testament to the ongoing popularity, right? Like Voldemort and Sauron, it's just like nothing was going on with those characters this year, but I guess they're, it's funny they're listed right with Darth Sidious, because that's like a fan fiction waiting to happen, right?
I've written it, my friend.
I mean, villains are perennially popular as well, aren't they? So I don't know. Voldemort, you mentioned Sauron. I have no clue why that's trending, other than the fact everybody watches Lord of the Rings every year, right around this time of year. Maybe have we got all the traffic right now? Is that where it's all come from?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, everyone. I don't know how many people have the same Thanksgiving tradition that we have in this house.
That's an interesting observation, Kim. Though that it's all bad boys. People love the bad guy.
They want Black Widow, who does have type red in her ledger.
Good point. Well, yeah. So Black Widow's probably just looking for more facts about the movie. Is it out? Is it coming out? Darth Sidious. I imagine people were trying to find the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise and just figured like they could get to it through that. They couldn't remember the name or something. President Snow, I'm just at a loss. Like that franchise ended years ago on screen.
Well, no, the book came out this year about the prequel about Young Sexy Snow.
Okay,
Sexy Snow.
Yeah, it came out. I don't know if it's Young Sexy Snow, but it is Young Snow. It did come out.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and like because I figured it was just like Donald Sutherland fans, and I don't think anyone's created like a wiki eyebrows yet, so they had to get their fix on Fandom.
And I wonder if Voldemort, it's just occurred to me, has been casting a spell over the whole franchise, maybe, and making some dark magic for J.K. Rowling.
Well, that's what I was wondering, was like the why of why people engage with these characters online, and part of me was like, we've had Fantastic Beast drama front and center. Those movies aren't generally beloved by everyone in general. Are people just hearkening back to the good old times with a fun villain? in the wizarding world and just going back over their Voldemort facts because Grindelwald's kind of dull.
Yeah, I mean the franchise. Look, it's a tremendously, when we've talked about why Fantastic Beasts will still probably be finished one way or the other by Warner Brothers. We're like, look, this is a huge IP for them. When theme parks are available to people, the Wizarding World is very popular still. So it is funny, Voldemort specifically. It has been a dark year. So yeah, maybe that's why. And Sauron, by the way, we should say there is a Lord of the Rings TV show coming. Sure. There's been a couple of big waves of casting for it, but nothing about that character. So it's kind of still this funny thing that they gravitate towards the big bad of these franchises.
Well, and I think Spencer pointed out too of like you go to Sidious and you end up at the Darth Plagueis page, and we kind of understand how people are using these wikis to go to these various different places where yeah, you start by Voldemort, and then because you wanted to look up where that one Horcrux was, and then you go to the Horcrux page, and then you go to this page, and you go to that page. So it would maybe, now that like another what Kim mentioned about them all being the big bad, it would make sense that maybe they're starting at Sauron to then dive deeper into the lore of the various things around them.
Well, that might be a fun way to look at these too. So anytime one of these doesn't make sense to y'all, I want you to figure out like why everyone's actually looking at them. Like, what are they actually trying to get at? I want to know. Top TV characters over on the small screen. This is kind of a fun list. Zuko from Avatar. Not super surprising to me. Avatar was massive on Netflix this year. Ahsoka Tano, obviously. Star Wars, Mandalorian. Ciri from Witcher. Stormfront from The Boys was probably one of the best characters on TV this year. And then Bjorn from Vikings, which I have not watched, so I'm not sure who Bjorn is.
Sounds like a Viking.
Yeah, just a Viking who famously held babies.
What'd you say, Kim?
Isn't he an ABBA?
Yeah,
yes, he founded ABBA.
He was an ABBA, yeah.
I was going to say, is he a Skarsgård, but both are likely. So.
Weirdly, there is a Viking named ABBA in The Last Kingdom. So this is actually all working.
From what I can read, Bjorn was a big part of season 6 of the Vikings. So, whatever happened in season 6, if you're a Vikings fan, obviously there was an increased interest for Bjorn because of those events.
Because he was holding them babies.
We should mention with Ahsoka, it was just like a hell of a year for her, though, because Clone Wars had its final season in the spring, very Ahsoka focused in those final episodes. And then, of course, you had Mandalorian, which both brought her back in a huge way, but also was people being introduced to her for the first time who don't follow the animated stuff and would want to look up more about her. So everything was coming up Ahsoka.
Ahsoka from the perspective of like a Mandalorian watcher had some mystery to her. And I think that's the running theme in all these characters, like Zuko, Ciri, Stormfront. It's like, are they good? Are they bad? You want to know more. There's some kind of central mystery at the heart of them that you would need to look up if you missed an episode or something.
Well, I think it might have had something to do with the sex scene in The Boys with Homelander.
Right. Yeah, it was like that was the thing about her was like they kept like adding these elements to her. And as a proponent of the weekly release, it's like, she's Instagram or she's influencer. Oh, she's kind of cool. She tells it like it is. Oh, she's a racist, awful person. Oh, she's a Nazi. Right. I feel like, all these layers, and it would make and because she's from the comics and they did a gender swap, there was a lot to look up about her and where she came from. Yeah.
But I also agree with. I think the big data swell might have been when they were floating in the air, making coitus,
evil, psychopathic coitus.
People were like, "Whoa, what does her power set say about this on her on her official wiki page?" I want to know. I do agree with the mystery aspect, Spencer, especially with like Ciri, whereas with Geralt and Yennefer, maybe like what you see is kind of what you get, on the show at face value. But Ciri is the character that there's a lot more mystery and what exactly is going on with her and the power of Screamo and what's that all about. So I can definitely sort of see people looking her up for a lot more insight.
And then, Zuko, it was such a big year, like you mentioned, for Airbender with going on Netflix, which both got nostalgia, but also people who've never seen it before. And he is the best character on the show. And so, yeah, I can see people wanting to read it. And there's been comic books about him afterwards, so there's more to learn about him there.
And there is always people argue all the time that Zuko has... No, stop it. Sorry, cat drinking Christmas tree water is bad. Sorry. That was going to just lead to a live stream puke, which would have been maybe fun depending on how this episode goes. I don't know. But yeah, people always argue all the time, Zuko's like got one of the best arcs of television character history, and certainly in animation history and stuff like that. So yeah.
Definitely. And Bjorn, man, people just love a good BJ name. What can I say?
It's a strong sound.
Yeah.
People like a guy that can throw an axe. Before we had to go inside, I know axe throwing was getting very popular in LA. I don't know. Throwing axes, guys. Top seasons of shows. Here's where we're going to have to do a little guessing on a couple of these. Season 4 of Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. We're going to have to maybe make some guesses here. Thomas the Tank Engine, Season 24.
This is where it all comes together. All the stuff in the novels.
And let me ask you this: after 24 seasons, can he yet? Wait, no. Thomas is not the engine that could. They are different. Sorry, different.
Yeah, come on.
I'm sorry, you guys. I shouldn't be on the show.
Does Ringo Starr still narrate the show? I don't know.
Ooh, good question.
I didn't know in the first place. Wow.
Yeah. I had no idea. Beast Morphers, the Beast Morphers season of Power Rangers specifically. That's interesting. I don't know enough about that fandom to know why specifically that season was great. I guess maybe Tommy was in it, if I had to throw out a guess. Tommy being the most important thing about that franchise. RuPaul's Drag Race, season 12, and Survivor, which is still on, and I was not aware.
Well, Eric can take it away. He's still surviving.
Right. Winners at War. That was season 40. It was an all-star. It was all people who'd won before, Joe. Come on.
Why do you think there isn't a whole lot of correlation between, say, like our top TV characters and our top villains and stuff like that versus something like top seasons of TV? You'd think with the amount of people really sort of engaging with each other, talking about Siri and stuff like that, you'd think, stuff like Witcher, which not 2020, but you sort of see my example, right? Like, I'm just sort of surprised, like, there's not a lot of correlation.
Yeah, it's. I mean, a couple of these, the reality show ones. I mean, it could just be people looking up like who went off in what order. There's like a lot of like forgetting like maybe the order people got knocked off in and how and if they missed some episodes. And Power Rangers is funny because it's this weird thing where it's been around so long that there is lore that people might want to look into. I am baffled by Thomas the Tank Engine because I don't know what is the.
So I just looked it up.
Has it gotten really complex?
2020 was the 75th anniversary of the franchise, and it's returned after a hiatus to our screens. So for all you train heads out there, you finally got what you wanted. And they were probably just wetting themselves with anticipation all year, just wondering when season 24 is going to drop, and it finally did.
With or without Ringo Starr, Spencer?
No Ringo Starr. It's narrated by a man named John Hasler, who's best known from Nomeo and Juliet. So.
Of course.
No Ringo, no Kim.
Yeah.
I'm out
anyway. I've got a weird Uncanny Valley thing with Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't like their faces.
I was all over season 23. Season 24, I am out.
Yeah, it really fell off.
Tim has walked. And then, also up there on that list, so there's a little correlation, that final season of Clone Wars. Also one of the tops.
These are quite advanced series we're looking at. I don't know what that means, but so season 24, season 4 of Miraculous Tales of Ladybug, season 12 of Drag Race, season 7 of the Clone Wars. Maybe it's people just trying to get to grips with where we're at in the story.
Yeah, I think it's that community aspect too. You know, like it's the other pages, like Joe was saying, you could see the difference of like, all right, everyone's reading about Darth Sidious because they want to learn info, but then there's that community aspect to the site as well. That like these seasons of television are where like the diehard fans are probably talking after each episode, you know, in their community, and as the season's going, following along. Especially like Eric noted, the Survivors, the reality shows, and then your random, you know, kids animated program at the top as well.
Do you guys think there's any function to fans falling out and falling off? Like, you know what, I used to love Survivor, man, but this one I'll read up.
I think a little bit of that. You know, a funny thing, Joe, is that Survivor recently had a Netflix boost. CBS, you know, has their own streaming service. They're about to rebrand as Paramount Plus, but they licensed just 2 seasons of Survivor and not that recent one recently to Netflix, and they were trending, and there were a lot of young people discovering Survivor, which might have led to them looking up more recent Survivor, that because they're trying to get, you know, only the first 2 are free, now go watch the rest on CBS All Access. So that might have led also to, and mixed with, like you mentioned, people who used to watch it might have seen it on Netflix, those 2 seasons, and then we're like, what's going on these days? And discovering, especially because it was an all-star season this year, so they brought back so many people, and you might be like, oh, I remember that person, or I missed their season. What was the story on that winner they brought back this year? So you probably got a big combination of all that.
Again, doing a little digging as we're talking about this. This year there was a huge hour-long special that dropped for M:LNCN. I speak, of course, of Miraculous Ladybug and Catmore, called Miraculous New York. And they finally brought their brand of French superhero magic to the United States, and in a fantastic BCN twist. And I think everybody must have just wanted to know more about that special or what happened this year on that show to prep for it.
Now I feel like I got to get in on that show. You just sold it to me.
Season 4 hasn't aired. It's the only season of this list that is not actually aired yet. So this is all just hype, guys. This is
and this is a show that's a collaboration, if I'm right, between France, Italy, Japan, South Korea, and Brazil, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's the Paris Climate Accords of children's television. But apparently the U.S. is set to join because they're going to New York, baby.
That actually, I actually kind of want to watch that now. That actually sounds kind of fun. Also, I don't know, those images were not what I had in my head for that show to be. That actually sounds kind of cool. The overall fandoms for the year, these are pretty obvious. Star Wars leads the pack, followed by Marvel, followed by The Witcher, followed by then DC, and then gaming in general, but mostly Cyberpunk 2077. The biggest, probably one of the biggest gaming fandoms of the year. A lot of that probably just like, because this whole year has just been, when do I get to play Cyberpunk?
A few more hours, Joe. That'll tell you what day we're pre-taping this.
Yeah, right.
And it's been delayed, hasn't it? Like everything else. So
it'll probably get delayed at the last minute. True.
Yeah, with games, you had 2 huge the consoles releasing too this year. But then what a year for Star Wars, because again, like Darth Sidious, I mean, Rise of Skywalker came out in December last year. But no matter what you think of that movie, people were obviously going to be looking up stuff about it. And then, like we mentioned, Clone Wars and Mandalorian having new seasons in the same year, especially in a year where we're starved for content with a lot of the movie stuff. It was like, Star Wars gave you stuff all year.
Plus, they have video games too. You know, Jedi Fallen Order. You know, Marvel had the Avengers game. DC has its various video games. The Witcher, we've talked about before. The Witcher is just an absolute powerhouse. The Russian Witcher wiki is bigger than most other wikis, and it's like just a dedicated to
it's really wild
Russian-speaking people, you know, and that part of the world, and that fan base is bigger than like most other total fan bases worldwide.
It's nice to see that the Cold War is still alive and well in Witcher fandom. The Russians had to have their own separate Witcher fandom from the West.
Well, the Witcher's one that you got to ask yourself though is like the utility of a fandom page is not just like to show if it's popular or not. To me, The Witcher being in the top 5 is like people had questions, like they needed to look stuff up because it was kind of confusing the first season. And also, so I think a lot of that traffic is like, what? Less so than like, Well,
and also as a newer fandom, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of mysteries and sort of like lore questions. Like, I know enough about Batman at this point. Like, I don't need to check up on the Rogues Gallery. Like, I've got the gist. But Witcher, not so much. Like,
what's Nilfgaard? Tell me more.
Yeah, what is a Nilfgaard? I would like to know. Cyberpunk having a big year this year, I think is fun. I love that genre. I love the idea of, obviously this is 2077 and not 2013, baby. Like the original Cyberpunk RPG book, but in general, the future of modems and floating Lamborghini Diablos and a Trapper Keeper world. I love that genre.
I think Keanu Reeves has also been a factor in there's questions around his character and how big a role he plays and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I think sort of him lending his voice to that has made it such a bigger event. And for diehards of the Cyberpunk franchise, the main character, because it started as an RPG series, like a tabletop game before it's made this jump, and the main character of that series has been kind of Keanu Reevesy since the inception. So I think for diehard fans of that series, like as that tabletop and that genre has grown, the excitement that Keanu Reeves finally probably stepped in and was just like, yeah, I'll do this. Probably fueled a lot for those diehards.
And then looking at DC, cool. I was like, actually, it was a super busy year for them. It's like when the year began, Crisis was still happening on CW, Birds of Prey, which ended up being the biggest comic book movie of the year by default. Harley Quinn getting all this buzz, all the Snyder Cut announcement, all the DC Fandom announcement stuff. And we're ending with Wonder Woman actually getting released. So there's been a lot of press on that. So even with the delays with the movies, still there was like constantly something to talk about with DC. And we know the Snyder Cut alone will generate plenty of clicks.
Yeah,
so and that's not even including the comic book worlds themselves, which are their own. And that's these fandoms are amalgamation of all those different. There's a Marvel Cinematic Universe wiki. There's a Marvel, for the 616 for the comics universe. Then, like I said, you have video games. So you definitely see with the top fandoms, even with The Witcher, you have all the books and kind of like different forms of media that go into just this big IP, which is why it's probably not surprising that those are the top ones.
Yeah, the Wild Hunt gang versus the books versus shows. I don't know if there's any of these lists that you guys definitely want to hit on, but I definitely want to close on my favorite, which is top magical powers. I want to discuss them. I want to parse out with you guys why we as a society have ranked them this way, what they represent in our hopes and dreams. But if there are any
of these visibility on that list. Sorry.
Yeah, break it down, Joe. What do we got?
Break this down. Okay, let's break this down and bring this sucker home. Top magical powers of 2020 based on science. Telekinesis leads the way. That's telekinesis, Kyle. Fire manipulation, followed by electricity manipulation, followed by darkness manipulation.
That's just like being emo, right?
And that's just loving Alkaline Trio still. And then last but apparently least, based on this list, time manipulation. Talk to me, folks. What about telekinesis is really speaking to folks in 2020?
I mean, this year more than any other, I felt like not getting up from my chair and or bed, even when nature was urging me otherwise. So I think that the ability to just Jedi something over from across the room is really appealing right now. Just to be able to move things without moving yourself is a 2020 mood, as they say.
I think that sums it up. That sums it up pretty well. Eric, are there any I'm trying to think of any actual big pop culture telekinetic moments that happened this year. Like, Netflix had I'm Not Okay With This about the telekinetic girl starring the girl from It, but that wasn't huge. It
Dark Phoenix hit HBO Max.
Yeah, I guess Dark Phoenix really cranking up the telekinesis fervor.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I mean, but it's like there are. I mean, I'm joking about that movie aside. It's like there's Phoenix, and then even you have a character like Magneto, who they might not call him telekinetic, but what he's doing is essentially in that arena. So I think there's a lot of crossover there. And then I was thinking with fire manipulation, there probably is something to the Zuko of it all, and the fact that the entire Airbender universe became huge again this year, and firebending was probably one of the most popular ones, thanks to Mr. Zuko.
Kim, darkness bending. Explain.
Well, this is quite an enigmatic one, because what does it mean? What does it all mean? What is the meaning of anything? And that's what I think this is getting at.
We're gonna figure it out.
And I'm sure everyone in the comments right now is like, it refers to this specific anime series, you morons.
That's what's cool about the page is that basically what the when I'm now looking it up, our Maggie, our analyst, who's helping me figure out what these numbers mean, but it's in the page with these superpowers. It like explains the superpowers and the different power levels of it, and then like it's kind of like an encyclopedia to all the different like people who have used it. So if you go to the telekinesis page, it's like here are all the various people in different fandoms.
Now I got to look up the darkness page. Then.
Does Bane can Bane do it? Because
he was born in the darkness.
I was born in the darkness. Molded by it.
It does make me think in Marvel of like, Cloak and Dagger. Cloak, he has like the dimension of darkness his cloak goes into. But that was, I thought that show was okay, but it wasn't incredibly popular. It got canceled after season 2. But maybe my fellow Cloak fans were on there.
I can manipulate both darkness and electricity when I switch off the light switch.
Ooh.
Whoa.
So maybe it's the universalness of darkness manipulation. People are like, oh well, this gives me some power back in this terrible year.
Yeah, good point. Hey Google, turn off the bedroom lights.
Oh my god!
Oh, I manipulated the darkness.
Powerful.
You're going on the wiki.
So I'm on the wiki, and yes, it leads with a Bane quote. Raven from Teen Titans does all her weird darkness. Yeah, actually, this is a really dense. We could spend a whole episode just talking about darkness manipulation. My disappointment. Electric manipulation is one of my favorite powers in comics. All characters that can do this, including Jamie Foxx's Electro, are cool characters. And to me, it should have gotten number 1 with a bullet. But what are you going to do? Just an underrated power in general.
What's each of yours preferred superpower? Like, what's if you could have one
from this list?
What's so great about electricity, Joe?
It just looks cool on the page. Surge from X-Men looked cool. Skullfire from X-Men 29 was dope.
It is aesthetic, but like, couldn't you just wear rubber? Couldn't you stop it with like a rubber pants?
Indeed.
Nice insulator. But yes, what powers are missing, or what powers would we want to have?
Yeah, just like in general, like what's the superpower you would want?
I mean, I'm looking at the superpower wiki, and like the fact that magic is just listed as one, that seems pretty all encompassing. I know that's kind of like wishing for more wishes, but like if you're magic, I feel like you can do all this crap.
I will absolutely take that one. Kim?
Of these ones in this list, I would go for time manipulation. That's pretty all-encompassing as well. And, I can undo this year or fast forward, whatever.
Yeah.
But I did mention invisibility too, so that would be
could
cool.
you though, Kim? Like, could you personally? Like, I that's something that I've been thinking about is like, if you could go back in time, to a pre-COVID era, you yourself, it's just you. What could you do?
Stop that man from eating the bat.
We're not topping that. We're going on eat that. We're not topping that. Guys, that's our shit. Let us know what fandoms got you through 2020. What powers would you want to have? What was your favorite character of 2020? Who got you through the dark times? And also just help Kim strategize on how to stop that man from eating that bat in the comments. Hit us up, and we'll see you next time on SJU. Thanks, guys.